Well, hello again, it's Trudy here from Hot Patterns with part 3 of our rather marvellous Red-Hot Mama multi-pocket tote sew-along. Don't forget, this is what we're working towards, something rather gorgeous like this, obviously in the colour of your choice. And we've already done part 1, which is where we prepared all our tote pieces but not the linings. Part 2, which is when we actually put the body of the tote together. And now we're here with part 3. And part 3 is all about making those multi-pocket linings. So I should stress to you something that's really, really key here. We have designed this with loads of pockets inside. But the whole point of this, in fact the whole point of anything, and the reason that we sew, is so that you can choose how many pockets you do and in what configuration. It's up to you. You can do all the pockets, some of the pockets, none of the pockets. It's really your choice. So I'm just going to show you how I laid mine out in my version of it, but you can of course add more, take some away, whatever you want to do. So we're going to start with doing our pockets. We'll do our pocket linings that go in the front section, the back section, and we're also going to do the very simple central lining that goes obviously in the central section. So let's get started. Okay, when we're doing our pockets, we have a number of decisions to make. Fortunately for us, they're not that tricky. Obviously you're going to decide how many pockets you want, but first you're going to decide how you want to edge the pocket tops. We do actually have 3 different sorts of pockets in this lining. 2 of the sorts of pockets we have open tops, so they have to be edged at the top. The other sort, of course, is a zippered pocket, which we'll come to shortly. But you need to decide how you're going to edge the openings of those open pockets. Are you going to hem them? And there is, I don't know if you can see that, there is kind of a hem allowance marked on here, 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimetres marked on the top of each pocket. So all you can do if you want to do that is just press it under 3/4 of an inch, work a row of stitching through it, and you've got an edged pocket, not a problem at all. The other way you can do it, of course, is to bind the edges. This is my preference for a number of reasons. One is it just looks really good, and secondly, you'll find when you look inside your bag, if your pocket edges are bound, the top edges, it's almost like drawing them with a Sharpie, like, oh, there's my pocket, that's lovely. So it's really useful for that. So I'm going to do bound edges on my pockets, and I'm going to make some bias binding. This is kind of like making continuous bias, but it's not strictly continuous bias. It's continuous, oh yes, not really biased. Doesn't really need to be because we're not going around any corners. We're doing a straight line of binding all the way across the tops of those pockets. So I will zoom in a moment and I will show you how I've marked this up. Very, very simple and very useful if you just need some nice kind of strips to edge something straight and you've only got a little piece of fabric like I have here. Okay, supreme close-up here, very, very close-up. I've only got a little scrap of this fabric, but I want a continuous strip, and so I'm going to treat it as though I'm making continuous bias. Even though, as I've just said, it's not on the true bias, actually quite far from it. Doesn't really matter though. So here's what I've done. I have my little bias maker. Don't know if you can see that. Is it in the shot? There we go. Okay, and this will make inch-wide binding. Of course, when you fold it in half around your seam, you'll get 1/2 inch, which is a little bigger than I'd normally use, but for filming purposes, really good because you can see it. And in order to create 1 inch wide binding, I need to cut strips that are 2 inches wide. And I'm hoping you can see these. I've marked them here all the way along the fabric, and I've used my 2 inch wide ruler, so I've got 2 inch strips. And then I've marked as well, let me just show you on the ends. There we go. I have marked along here a straight line. That's my kind of seam line, and I've done the same, obviously, on the other end. Here is what I'm going to do. Let's hope I can pull it in close enough. Well, no closer than this, but I can angle it properly for you. Okay, I have got here an intersection of my seam allowance here and my 2 inch line here. And I've put in a pin cunningly marked with a red end so you can see it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to match it to the 2 inch line here. I'm going to move it along one, like this. So I'm going to put my pin straight through the seam allowance on the second line. Where is it? There it is. There we go, like this. And let me just pin that together so you can see it. So on one side I've got, it's kind of not matching. Can you see that properly? There you go. It's not matching. That end there matches up with this first 2-inch line here. And this 2-inch line matches up to the second 2-inch line there. So now I'm going to seam these two pieces together, obviously pressing it open, but the key is when I'm sewing it, I want to make sure that all these intersected lines here match with the other intersected ones there. This is kind of key. And then we will cut it into strips to make bias. Okay, so now I have prepared my, so-called continuous bias. The key here is the word continuous, not so much the bias part. But you can see, I've pressed the seam open and you can see where my lines that I've drawn in kind of just become one line. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start cutting along this line here. I'm going to cut all the way up here and all along the back of it, following my line, and it's going to end up, can you see that? It's going to end up there. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to get a huge long strip of this continuous fabric, and then I'm going to put it through my trusty binder maker. So I'm going to go and do that and show you what it looks like kind of before and after pulling it through the binder maker. Actually, I'm going to just quickly show you what this looks like and how it works when you're cutting it. So you've just got to follow your line, which you have cunningly marked in. I've marked it in with ballpoint pen, bad designer bad, but obviously you'd want to use chalk or something similar. The truth is though, it doesn't really matter, it's going to be tucked away, so as long as it doesn't bleed onto your fabric, you're good. So we just keep cutting like this, and you will see that we're going to end up keeping going, snip, snip, all the way through. See how that's becoming just like one long strip there? So I'm going to go and keep doing that, and then I'll pull half of it through the binder maker and show you the other half, kind of how it works out. Okay, so when I've cut my strips and I've pulled them through my bias maker, obviously pressing as I go, this is what I end up with. That's the wrong side of the bias, and that's the kind of finished side. Looks pretty cool, I think you can agree. And this is how it works. You have to kind of finagle the end, that end, in through this way, and I always use a pin and just kind of persuade it to go through, and then you just pull it, and as you pull it here, you've got your iron here and you're pressing, you just go like that. If it's too hot for you, put a piece of ribbon on here and you can just drag it, but you just pull it like this, pressing as you go, and you'll get a beautifully finished bias binding. I mean, again, as I said, this isn't truly bias, and I guess really if you wanted to, you could just cut a strip that's the right width and do this as well. But I just wanted that little bit of give that this slightly bias is going to give me. Okay, so now I've got my huge, long and rather fabulous strip of bias, looking rather lovely. I'm going to quickly let you in on my little trick, my little sneaky trick for easier edging of pockets. Doesn't matter whether you're going to use bias or whether you're going to use just a hem, really doesn't matter. Here is what you do. Instead of cutting all your pockets out and then edging them, first you edge a strip of lining, like that. Edge it along one edge, and then you cut your pockets from that. I'm going to show you what I mean, but you will see very quickly that it's a much easier and quicker and frankly less traumatic way of cutting all those pockets out. Final thing to tell you about edging the pockets is this. If you are edging them with something like a leather or a suede or a felt, something that doesn't fray, you do not need to turn the edges under. You can just cut the strip about 1 inch wide, fold it in half and press it. If you're using real or faux, leather or suede, put a press cloth on top. You don't want scorching, you don't want melting. But do be aware that if you are using a very thick leather, maybe you use a thick leather for your straps, you want to use the same one, it's not really going to work. Thick leather will be too thick. If it's very fine, very thin, you're all good. If not, default to fabric, it's much easier. Okay, so now I have bound my edges of my pocket strip, shall we call it, and here's how you do it. You sew it first to the rear, here, along that fold line that you've pressed in when you pulled it through the binder maker. So you sew it along the back, and then you fold it onto the front like this. Can you see that? Onto the front. And obviously stitch it down along the edge. It looks pretty good there, but it looks even better when you actually press it like this. It looks really nice. So now I've got to cut my pockets out. Okay, time to actually start cutting the pockets out. I know it seems to have taken for ages, but this is going to really save you time doing this in one big strip like this. Okay, you're going to take your pocket piece, and whether you have done a hem like that, or you've actually bound it, you need to fold that hem allowance back along the top because you just want the kind of finished depth. And you're going to bump it up like this, and you're going to lay out your pockets all the way along, cut as many of them as you need. Now, the truth is, this is one strip across the lining piece. It's probably not going to be enough for the amount of pockets I want. That's okay, because out of that little piece of fabric that I made the bias out of, I've got enough to do another strip like this. So if I need to, I can do that. But what we're going to start with first is not the open pockets. We are going to start with this one, which is, oh, I'm lying, that one. Okay, this is the cell phone and small open pocket. And this is one of the very, very few, it's actually, I think, the only one that we do. We have to turn the sides and bottom under because it doesn't go into a seam anywhere. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to fold it down here and you're going to chop out your pocket. So let's prepare our cell phone and small pocket. And I'm guessing we're going to apply it onto the front of the zippered pocket, but we'll prepare this first, then we'll prepare the zippered pocket, then we'll put the two together. Okay, here we are with our pockets, our open pockets I should say, that are now all kind of done and ready to be pocketed. Should we call it that? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I've got big pockets, I've got medium-sized pockets, and I've got small pockets. But we're not going to deal with those right now. We're going to start with our phone and small pocket. These are open pockets, so we've got the edge at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and when I do this I'm going to pull the camera right in because you want to see what we're doing. But basically this has two pleats along the bottom, and then you turn the three raw edges in and top stitch it down where you wish. I mean, really, it's that simple. So I'm going to do that kind of in bits, in process, so you can see it. Very, very simple thing to do. This is how we do pretty much all of our phone pockets on pretty much all of our bags, so it's worth you seeing it. So this is the first pocket we're going to actually complete. This is the cell phone and small open pocket. Okay, so I've kind of halfway prepared my phone pocket, and first of all I have to apologise for all the kind of thready debris all over this table, but this canvas shreds like a maniac, but not as much as this lining. Oh, good grief. But anyway, we're not too worried about that. So here's what we've got. We've got two pleats here. Now, this isn't marked on the pattern, it's really a personal preference thing. This is what I like to do. I like to sew up and down here, kind of fold it in half and just sew up kind of like about an inch from the cut edge to secure my pleats, only because I'm really, really clumsy and, you know, it's just never going to work. So the pleats will be like this when it's done. In fact, here is one that I've done and I've pressed up. So the pleats are here. We've got our pressed edge at the bottom there. Hope you can see that. Flip it over. And it's going to be top stitched down, you know, down this side, across here and up this one. And I've also, I'm not sure if you can see against the light because this is very shiny lining and I've just sort of roughly marked it with chalk. There's a line here on your pattern and you need to transfer it onto your pocket because you're going to stitch through this line here as far down as you can, and that's going to give you your kind of pleated cell phone pocket on one side and then your small pocket on the other. So now we've got those prepared. We're not going to apply them yet. Next thing we're going to do is the zippered pocket. So now we're ready for our zippered pocket. Don't forget, you can have these or not as you wish, but I have to say, I do find that I like a zippered pocket in the front and back sections of my tote because that's where I keep my wallet and, you know, important things like that. So I want it zipped up and then the magnetic snap to close the front or back section. So zippered pocket's super, super useful. Now, the pattern pieces for the zippered pocket are actually multi-use pieces. This is also one of the open pockets. This is the large open pocket or the bottom of the zippered pocket. It's marked quite clearly on there. And this piece is the upper strap. Remember the upper strap we put on the top piece of the tote, part of where the zipper was going to go? You also use this as the top piece for your zippered pocket. We like to have our pattern pieces multitasking. Yes, we do. Okay, so you get your pieces, and obviously it's a fairly simple kind of scenario. You are going to join them, and you're going to insert a zipper. Now, I've overlocked the top edge of these because this lining's fraying like a maniac. Okay, you're going to join them in two short little seams there, and then press back your seam allowances. Your seam allowances are, of course, 3/4 of an inch. This is what you get. Can we see that? Yes. And can we see that it's kind of got an open mouth like this? That's where your zipper's going to go. Now I'm going to pin up the zipper. I'm going to show you how to pin it up or you know, fix it so it's ready to be sewn. And then I'll zoom in closely and show you what it looks like before it goes off to be stitched. Okay, here's how I'm going to do it. Obviously I've got my press back seam allowances and I have pinned one edge of my zipper so that the teeth of the zipper go right up against the fold. And so you can see if I fold that back there, you can just see the teeth, just. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to sew that on, and then I'm going to go back and basically do the zipper up and join it on the other side. When I've done that, my zipper's in, but I want to top stitch it, so I'll go over onto the right side. Oh, there it is. Onto the right side and top stitch all the way around. So I'm going to do that. It's the easiest zipper insertion ever, but it has to be done. So let me do that, and yeah, I'll show you it when it's done. Okay, I've gone ahead and inserted the zipper. Probably the worst zipper insertion I've ever done in my life, but that's not such a problem. I promise I'll do the next one properly. But I've pinned on the phone pocket, the phone and open pocket, and I've just centered it up, because that's what you do. And you can see here we've got a pin on our line of stitching. So what we're going to do is go all the way around those three edges. When you get to this corner here where the pleat is, you're going to have to like back stitch there and then lift your needle and come there. So you're going to have like, I'm going to say probably about 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch that maybe isn't caught there, and then just sew up the sides. Easy enough to do, but basically down here, along there, up there, and then another row of stitching through there. Please note, with these big pockets like this, I haven't asked you to press under the bottom or the sides because you don't need to. And when we do all the layered up pockets and we put all the lining together, you will see why you don't need to. It's really, really cool. So I'm now going to go and top stitch this on, and yep, then we're on to the layered pockets. So there is your cell phone pocket and your small open pocket applied on top of your zippered pocket. As I said earlier, that's probably the worst zipper insertion I've ever done, and normally I'd go back and unpick it and redo it, but I'm really keen to get this in the can for you because there's actually a lot more pockety goodness to come. So what I think we're going to do now is we're going to complete this part of it and put this out as part 3A, and then we'll do the rest of it coming very shortly as part 3B, so that we don't bog you down with too many kind of pocket details. So yes, there's your beautiful open pocket, there's your cell phone pocket, there's your zipper opening. Yep, see you next time.